The two brothers. In the vibrant city of Zawadi, Baraka was known as one of the wealthiest merchants in the land. His caravans brought silk, spices, and gold to every corner of the kingdom. Yet, despite his riches, Baraka was troubled. A widower for many years, his only family were his two sons, Juma and Keto, whose differences kept him awake at night. Juma, the elder, was a man of quiet strength and unwavering kindness. He spent his days among the people, offering aid to the poor and listening to their stories. Humble and generous, he carried himself with grace, a quality admired by all. Keto, the younger, was his brother's opposite. Ambitious and cunning, he saw the world as a game to be won, with wealth and power as the ultimate prizes. Quick to boast and slow to share, Keto's charm masked a heart driven by greed. As Baraka neared the twilight of his years, one question loomed: who would inherit his empire? He wanted a successor who would lead not only with intelligence but also with virtue. Yet, he struggled to see the qualities he valued reflected in both sons. One evening, Baraka summoned Juma and Keto to the great hall of their home. The flickering light of lanterns danced on the marble walls as he spoke. "My sons, the time has come to decide who among you will carry on the family legacy. But wealth and power corrupt those who lack virtue. To prove your worth, I give you a year to find wives who embody kindness and integrity. You must do so without relying on my wealth or reputation. Return to me not with riches, but with proof of your wisdom and character." The challenge was met with contrasting reactions. Juma nodded solemnly, understanding the weight of his father's words. Keto, however, smirked, already plotting ways to outdo his brother. The following day, they departed. Juma chose a modest path, setting out for a distant village. He shed his fine garments and left with only the essentials, determined to live humbly and seek a wife who valued love and integrity over fortune. Keto, on the other hand, saw no reason to struggle. Rumors reached him of a mysterious sorceress who dwelled deep in the forest, a woman said to possess the power to grant immense wealth to those who dared seek her. To Keto, this was the perfect shortcut to success. As Juma walked toward simplicity and Keto pursued the whispers of magic, the brothers set forth on journeys that would not only test their worth but reveal the true nature of their hearts. Juma's humble journey. With the morning sun rising over the horizon, Juma set out on his journey. Gone were the fine silks and adorned carriages of his father's home. In their place, he wore a simple tunic and carried a bag of tools. His heart was resolute, guided by a desire to prove himself without the weight of wealth or privilege. After several days of travel, Juma arrived in a small, quiet village nestled between rolling hills. The village was modest, its dirt paths lined with humble cottages and fields of crops. It was far from the grandeur he had known, but to Juma, it was a chance to begin anew. Juma's new life. Introducing himself as a traveling craftsman, Juma began offering his skills to the villagers. He repaired broken fences, mended roofs, and even crafted simple furniture. Though his hands grew calloused, the work brought him unexpected joy. The villagers, initially wary of the stranger, soon came to trust and respect him for his sincerity and hard work. Children ran to greet him when he entered the village square, and the elders spoke of his kindness with admiration. For the first time in his life, Juma felt the warmth of a community not bound by status or wealth but by mutual care and gratitude. The mysterious stranger. One day, while delivering a repaired plow to a farmer, Juma noticed a young woman surrounded by children. She knelt in the shade of an old tree, tending to their scraped knees and handing out small pieces of fruit. Her laughter rang like music, and her smile radiated compassion. Curious, Juma approached her. The woman introduced herself as Zori, a caretaker for the village's orphans. She had grown up in the village and dedicated her life to helping those in need. Juma was struck by her warmth and selflessness, qualities he admired deeply. Zori, in turn, noticed Jumo's humble demeanor and genuine interest in the villagers' well-being. Though he wore plain clothes and spoke little of his past, his actions spoke volumes. Despite his unassuming appearance, she found herself drawn to him. A budding bond. Over time, Jumo and Zori grew closer. She often accompanied him as he walked, sharing stories of her childhood and her dreams for the village. In return, Jumo spoke of his travels and the lessons he had learned along the way, carefully avoiding mention of his family's wealth or the challenge that had brought him there. Their bond deepened with each passing day, built on mutual respect and understanding. Jumo admired Zori's unwavering dedication to others, while Zori saw in Jumo a kindred spirit, a man whose heart was as pure as his intentions. In Zori's presence, Jumo found a peace he hadn't known before. And though he knew he still had to prove his worth to his father, a new thought began to take root in his heart, that perhaps, in this simple village, he had already found something far more valuable than wealth or an empire, Keto and the sorceress. While Jumo walked the path of humility, Keto chose a road of ambition and desire. Stories of a mysterious sorceress named Naoka, rumored to grant unimaginable wealth, had reached his ears. Without hesitation, Keto ventured deep into the wilderness to find her, driven by his hunger for power and disdain for his father's challenge. Keto's quest for power. After days of travel through dense forest, Keto arrived at a hidden mansion unlike anything he had ever seen. Its walls shimmered with gold, and the gardens overflowed with rare, exotic flowers. It was a palace of wealth and splendor, radiating a magic that felt both alluring and dangerous. At the entrance, Keto was greeted by Naoka herself. Draped in flowing robes adorned with jewels, her eyes glowed like embers, and her voice carried an otherworldly melody. She exuded an aura of power that made Keto's heart race, not with fear, but with anticipation. "I know why you've come," Naoka said, her lips curling into a sly smile. "You desire wealth and influence, and you are willing to pay any price to obtain it." Keto nodded, too eager to question her knowledge. "I'll do whatever it takes," he declared. Naoka studied him for a long moment before nodding. "Very well. I can grant you the wealth you seek, but my gifts come with a price." "The conditions?" Naoka led Keto into a grand hall where a gilded chest rested atop an ornate pedestal. Opening the chest, she revealed a small, cold serpent with shimmering emerald scales. The creature's eyes glowed faintly, exuding a hypnotic presence. "This is no ordinary serpent," Naoka explained. "It is enchanted, and through it, your wealth and power will grow. However, there are conditions you must obey. You must sleep with this serpent in your bed twice a week. No one else must ever see it. Should anyone discover the serpent, the wealth it grants will vanish, and you will face consequences far worse than poverty." Keto hesitated for a brief moment but dismissed any doubt. To him, the conditions were trivial compared to the rewards. "I accept," he said firmly. Naoka handed him a finely crafted bag, the serpent slithering inside. "Your riches will grow each day you honor this pact," she warned. "But remember, greed often blinds the unworthy." The pact. Keto returned to the city, the bag clutched tightly in his hands. True to Naoka's word, his wealth began to multiply. Gold coins seemed to appear out of thin air, and his influence spread like wildfire. He purchased grand estates, hosted lavish feasts, and surrounded himself with the city's most influential figures. The people of Zawadi, unaware of the pact he had made, celebrated him as a rising leader, praising his generosity and vision. Yet, Keto's success came with a shadow. Twice a week, he returned to his chambers, where the enchanted serpent waited. Though the creature remained still and silent as it lay beside him, its presence filled him with unease. But Keto buried his discomfort beneath his growing wealth, assuring himself it was a small price to pay for power. As Keto's star rose, whispers of his sudden fortune began to circulate. Envy and curiosity took root among those around him, threatening to unravel the secret that bound his fate to the serpent. Jumo's test of character. Life in the small village had brought Jumo an unexpected sense of purpose. The bonds he forged with the people, and especially with Zori, gave his days meaning. Yet, as the months passed, a great challenge arose to test his resolve. Challenges in the village. One scorching summer, a drought swept across the land, leaving the fields cracked and the crops withering under the relentless sun. The once thriving village faced the grim prospect of famine. The farmers grew desperate, and tempers flared as fear took hold. Jumo, who had become a trusted figure in the village, refused to stand idly by. Drawing upon the wisdom he had gained from observing his father's trade empire, he called a meeting in the village square. "We cannot control the rain," he said, his voice steady and calm, "but we can control how we face this challenge together." Under Jumo's guidance, the villagers began digging trenches to redirect water from a distant stream to their fields. He devised ways to ration the remaining supplies and encouraged everyone to contribute, no matter how small their efforts. For weeks, Jumo worked tirelessly alongside the villagers, his hands blistered and his back sore from labor. His determination inspired others to push through their exhaustion, and slowly, hope began to return. Zori's sacrifice. Amid the struggle, Zori made a heart-wrenching decision. She sold her most precious possession, a delicate silver bracelet passed down from her late mother, to buy seeds and supplies for the village. When Jumo learned of her sacrifice, he was deeply moved. "Why would you give up something so precious?" he asked, his voice filled with both admiration and concern. Zori smiled softly. "What good is an heirloom if those around me suffer? My mother would have wanted me to help." Her selflessness touched Jumo's heart in a way he had never felt before. In that moment, he realized that Zori embodied everything he sought in a partner: kindness, courage, and a boundless capacity for love. Revelation. When the drought finally ended, the village celebrated its survival with a modest festival. Beneath the glow of lanterns, Jumo took Zori aside. "There's something I must tell you," he began, his voice trembling slightly. He confessed his true identity, that he was the son of a wealthy merchant, sent on a journey to prove his worth by finding a virtuous wife. Zori listened intently, her expression unreadable. When he finished, he knelt before her, holding her hands tightly in his. "I came here to fulfill my father's challenge," he said, "but I found so much more. You have shown me what it means to love and serve others. Zori, will you marry me?" Tears filled Zori's eyes as she smiled. "I will," she replied. "Not because of who you are, but because of who you've chosen to become." The two embraced, their hearts full of hope for the future. Together, they prepared to return to Jumo's father, ready to prove that love and character could overcome any challenge. Keto's descent. Keto's rise to power was meteoric. His newfound wealth had made him one of the most influential figures in Zawadi. Grand feasts were held in his honor, and merchants clamored to align themselves with him. Yet, beneath the gilded surface of his success, Keto's life was unraveling. Wealth and isolation. As his riches grew, so did Keto's paranoia. The serpent, hidden in his chambers, became a constant reminder of the fragile nature of his power. Twice a week, he lay beside the creature, its cold scales brushing against his skin. Though it never harmed him, the serpent's presence filled him with unease. Nayoka's warning echoed in his mind: no one else must see the serpent. Keto went to great lengths to ensure his secret remained hidden, dismissing servants and isolating himself from anyone who might stumble upon the creature. His once lavish mansion became a fortress, and whispers of his odd behavior began to spread. The serpent, too, seemed to grow more demanding. Its presence in his life became suffocating, its glowing eyes following him even in his dreams. The forbidden love. Amid his isolation, Keto found an unexpected distraction, Layla, a strikingly beautiful woman with a taste for luxury. She was the daughter of a prominent merchant, known for her sharp wit and love of fine things. Keto was captivated by her, seeing in her a reflection of his own ambition and desire for the finer things in life. For the first time since making his pact with Naoka, Keto felt a longing that had nothing to do with wealth. He began courting Layla, showering her with gifts and promises of a grand future. Layla, drawn to his wealth and charm, seemed equally enamored. But Keto's infatuation did not go unnoticed. One evening, as he admired Layla from his balcony, Naoka appeared in his chambers, her voice as cold as the serpent's scales. Naoka's warning. "You dare to court another," she hissed, her fiery eyes narrowing. "Have you forgotten the terms of our pact? The serpent gives you your wealth, but it demands loyalty. If you break your vow, the consequences will be dire." Keto's confidence faltered, but only for a moment. "What of it?" he retorted, attempting to mask his fear. "I have kept the serpent hidden, and I have honored the pact. What harm is there in loving someone?" Naoka's expression darkened. "The serpent's power is tied to your obedience. Betray its trust, and all you have built will crumble. Do not test me, Keto. You have been warned." As suddenly as she had appeared, Naoka vanished, leaving Keto alone with his thoughts and his growing fear. A dangerous choice. Despite Naoka's warning, Keto could not resist Layla's allure. He began plotting ways to conceal his secret while pursuing his forbidden love, blinded by his desire to have it all. But the serpent seemed to sense his wavering loyalty, its glowing eyes watching him more intently with each passing night. Unbeknownst to Keto, his decisions were setting the stage for a reckoning that would cost him far more than he ever imagined the consequences. Keto's ambition had brought him everything he thought he wanted: wealth, power, and the admiration of the city. But his growing obsession with Layla began to cloud his judgment. Though Naoka's warning haunted him, Layla's charm and persuasive words proved stronger. Keto's betrayal. One evening, as Keto prepared for his ritual with the serpent, Layla confronted him in his chambers. "Why do you disappear twice a week?" she demanded, her tone sharp with suspicion. "You leave me here alone, locked out of your life. What secret are you hiding?" Keto hesitated, the weight of his pact pressing down on him. But Layla's eyes, full of expectation, drove him to a reckless decision. "It's nothing," he lied, pushing the serpent's bag under his bed. "Tonight, I'll stay with you. You're more important than anything else." The serpent, sensing his betrayal, began to hiss softly, its glow intensifying. Ignoring the warning, Keto left the room and spent the night with Layla, confident that his absence would have no consequences. But when the sun rose, the serpent was no longer in its bag. Suddenly, a deafening roar shook the mansion. The walls trembled as the serpent emerged, no longer the small, coiled creature Keto had known. It had transformed into a monstrous beast, its emerald scales now jagged like broken glass and its eyes blazing with fury. As the creature rampaged through the mansion, gold and jewels dissolved into ash. The wealth Keto had amassed vanished before his eyes, leaving behind ruin and despair. The serpent's cries echoed through the city, drawing a crowd of onlookers who watched in horror as the truth of Keto's greed was laid bare. Madness and despair. When the destruction ended, Keto stood among the rubble, his once mighty mansion reduced to dust. The serpent had disappeared, but its presence lingered in the form of haunting whispers. Word of Keto's downfall spread quickly. Those who had once flocked to his side now turned their backs, eager to distance themselves from his disgrace. Layla, horrified by the destruction and no longer enamored with a penniless man, left without a word. Her parting stung more than the loss of his fortune, leaving Keto utterly alone. As days turned into weeks, Keto's mind began to unravel. Visions of Naoka and the serpent plagued his waking hours, their voices mocking him for his arrogance and greed. He wandered the city in tattered clothes, muttering to himself, a shadow of the man he had once been. Keto's downfall became a cautionary tale whispered among the people of Zawadi, a reminder of the dangers of ambition untempered by virtue. Redemption and reunion. After a year of trials and growth, Juma returned to Zawadi with Zori by his side. The journey had transformed him, and his humble demeanor now carried an air of quiet confidence. When the villagers heard of his return, they gathered in the square to greet him, their faces alight with admiration and gratitude for the man who had once been their craftsman and ally in times of need. Juma's triumph. Baraka, now frailer but still sharp, awaited his son at the family estate. As Juma entered the grand hall, he knelt before his father and introduced Zori. "Father," he said, his voice steady and filled with pride, "this is Zori, my wife-to-be. She has taught me the true meaning of love, selflessness, and service to others." Baraka's eyes glistened as he looked at Zori, seeing in her a rare strength of character. "You have done well, my son," he said, his voice filled with emotion. "You have proven that wealth means nothing without virtue. You have earned not only my blessing but the legacy I leave behind." The villagers, too, praised Juma for his humility and kindness. They spoke of how he had walked alongside them, shared their struggles, and become one of their own. Juma's heart swelled with gratitude, knowing that the greatest riches he had gained were the bonds of love and community. Keto's redemption. Amid the celebration of Juma's return, a gaunt and disheveled figure appeared at the gates of the estate. It was Keto. His once proud demeanor was gone, replaced by shame and regret. With trembling hands, he approached his father and brother. "I have nothing left," Keto confessed, his voice barely above a whisper. "I was blinded by greed and ambition, and I betrayed the trust of everyone who cared for me. I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I beg for a chance to make amends." Baraka studied his younger son, his heart heavy with sorrow. Before he could respond, Juma stepped forward, his expression gentle but firm. "Keto," Juma said, "we all make mistakes. What matters is that you've recognized them and wish to change. Let us rebuild together, not just wealth, but trust and love." Keto's eyes filled with tears as he fell to his knees. "Thank you," he whispered, overcome by his brother's compassion. Conclusion. In the days that followed, Juma and Zori helped Keto rebuild his life. With their support, Keto began to work humbly, learning the value of honest labor and the joy of helping others. Baraka, witnessing the transformation in both his sons, realized the true value of character over material wealth. "I once worried about the future of my legacy," he said to them one evening. "But now I see it will live on, not in riches, but in the virtues you embody." The family, once divided by ambition and pride, was reunited by forgiveness and love. Juma and Zori married in a simple but joyous ceremony, with Keto standing proudly by his brother's side. Though Keto's journey had been fraught with mistakes, he emerged with a newfound appreciation for humility and the bonds of family. Together, the brothers carried forward their father's legacy, guided not by greed but by the values they had learned through their trials. And in the city of Zawadi, their story became one of hope and redemption, a tale of two brothers who found their true wealth not in gold but in the strength of their hearts. A new beginning for Keto. Keto's road to redemption was not an easy one. While Juma and Zori extended their support, the whispers of his fall from grace still lingered among the people of Zawadi. Determined to prove himself, Keto humbly took on small jobs, often the very kind he had once mocked. With time, his genuine efforts began to change perceptions. He offered apologies to those he had wronged, repaid debts he had ignored, and started initiatives to help struggling families in the city. Though he carried the weight of his past mistakes, Keto found purpose in service, slowly earning back the respect of the people and of himself. One day, as Keto walked in the bustling market, he approached Juma with a thoughtful smile. "You taught me something I never understood before, brother," he said. "The worth of a man isn't measured by what he takes, but by what he gives." Juma clapped a hand on his brother's shoulder. "It's a lesson we all learn in time. I'm proud of the man you're becoming." Juma and Zori's new role. With Baraka stepping back from his duties, Juma and Zori began to oversee the family's trade empire. But unlike in the past, their leadership was guided by values of fairness and compassion. They introduced reforms to ensure fair wages for workers and started programs to support struggling communities. The people of Zawadi flourished under their care, and the merchant empire grew stronger, not through exploitation, but through trust and loyalty. Zari, too, found her place in this new chapter. Drawing from her experience in the village, she founded an orphanage in the heart of the city, providing a safe haven for children in need. Her kindness and wisdom inspired many, and she became beloved by the people. Baraka's reflection. As Baraka watched his sons grow into their roles, he felt a deep sense of peace. He often sat in the courtyard of their estate, surrounded by the laughter of children and the bustling activity of a flourishing household. One evening, he called Juma, Zori, and Keto to his side. "My greatest wealth," he said, his voice warm and steady, "was never the gold or silk I traded. It was the legacy I leave in you. You have shown me that even in our darkest moments, we can find light through love and forgiveness." A united family. As time passed, the family grew closer than ever. Keto, having redeemed himself, became a vital part of their work, offering innovative ideas to expand their trade routes and improve efficiency. Though he still bore the scars of his past, he used them as reminders to stay humble and grounded. Juma and Zori, now parents to a lively young boy, often visited the village where their journey began, teaching their son the value of kindness and community. The story of the two brothers became a legend in Zawadi, told to inspire future generations. It was a tale of ambition tempered by humility, of mistakes redeemed through courage, and of a family reunited by love. Final reflection. On a quiet evening, as the sun set over Zawadi, Juma and Keto stood side by side, gazing out at the bustling city. "We've come a long way," Keto said softly. Juma nodded, a smile playing on his lips. "And the journey isn't over. But as long as we walk it together, there's nothing we can't overcome." With that, the brothers returned to their family, ready to face the future, united, stronger, and wiser than ever before. A flourishing future. The transformation of Zawadi. Under the leadership of Juma and Zori, Zawadi became a beacon of fairness and prosperity. The reforms they introduced, honest wages for laborers, accessible education for children, and trade practices that prioritized long-term relationships over exploitation, transformed the city into a hub of commerce and culture. Zori's orphanage grew beyond its humble beginnings. With funding from the family and support from the community, it expanded to include a school and vocational training workshops. Children who once wandered the streets found not only shelter but opportunities to shape their futures. The once estranged brothers, now partners, worked together to achieve these goals. Keto, using the lessons learned from his downfall, became instrumental in expanding the family's trade network. He brought a sharp strategic mind to their operations but tempered it with the humility and compassion he had gained. Keto's quiet redemption. Though Keto had reclaimed his place in the family, he remained haunted by his past. He sought not only forgiveness from others but also reconciliation within himself. To give back, Keto spent many of his evenings volunteering at Zori's orphanage. At first, the children were wary of the man they had heard whispered about in cautionary tales. But over time, they grew to adore him, particularly when he shared his own story. "You can rise again, no matter how far you fall," Keto often told them. But it takes honesty, hard work, and the courage to change. His transformation inspired others who had faced their own struggles, and Keto became a symbol of redemption in Zawadi. Juma and Zori's growing family. As the years passed, Juma and Zori's family grew. Their home was filled with laughter, love, and the lessons they hoped to pass on to their children. Each summer, they returned to the village where their love story began, ensuring their children understood the importance of humility and the bonds of community. Baraka, though aging, often sat in the shade of the family courtyard, surrounded by his grandchildren. He delighted in telling them stories, not of his own riches, but of their parents' courage and the trials they had overcome. "You are the heirs to something far greater than gold," Baraka would say, his voice filled with pride. "You are the heirs to a legacy of love, resilience, and service to others. A lasting legacy." Years turned into decades, and the family story became more than a memory, it became a guiding light for the people of Zawadi. Statues were erected in honor of Juma and Zori, celebrating their contributions to the city's prosperity. Keto's name, too, was remembered not for his fall, but for the strength of his redemption. His efforts to improve trade routes and mentor struggling merchants left an indelible mark, proving that even the most flawed among us could achieve greatness. The brother's tale was passed down from generation to generation, a reminder that wealth alone could not define a person's worth. It was their kindness, courage, and ability to forgive that truly shaped their legacy. The final scene. On a warm evening, long after Baraka had peacefully passed away, Juma and Keto stood together once more on the balcony of the family estate. The city of Zawadi stretched before them, alive with light and laughter. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" Keto said, his voice tinged with awe. Juma nodded, his eyes filled with gratitude. "We built this together. And we'll leave it better than we found it." As they stood side by side, their hearts were united by the journey they had shared, a journey of trials, redemption, and the realization that the greatest riches were the bonds they had forged. Epilogue, the legacy lives on. The next generation. Years turned into decades, and the children of Juma and Zori grew into adults shaped by their parents' values. Each child carried the lessons of humility, love, and service as they ventured into the world. Their eldest son, Baraka too, named in honor of his grandfather, took a special interest in the family trade empire. Guided by Juma's wisdom and Zori's compassion, he expanded the business across borders, ensuring fair trade practices and creating partnerships with distant lands. Their daughter, Laila, inherited her mother's heart for caregiving. She dedicated her life to running the orphanage, which had evolved into a thriving center for education and opportunity. Laila's work extended beyond Zawadi, inspiring similar institutions across the region. Even the younger children, each in their own way, found paths to honor the family's legacy. Whether through art, medicine, or education, they carried forward the ideas instilled in them. Keto's reflection and final gift. Keto, though never a father himself, became a beloved uncle and mentor to the children of the family. His transformation from a man driven by greed to a figure of wisdom and redemption became a cherished story told within the family and beyond. In his later years, Keto established a foundation that provided resources for struggling merchants and small farmers. He named it the Emerald Foundation, a tribute to the serpent that had once symbolized his downfall but ultimately led him to a path of humility and renewal. One evening, as the family gathered to celebrate Keto's 70th birthday, he shared a final wish. "Remember," he said, his voice steady despite his age, "our greatest wealth is in the lives we touch and the love we leave behind. That is the only treasure worth seeking." Zawadi's transformation. The city of Zawadi continued to flourish under the stewardship of the family. What was once a city driven by profit and hierarchy became a beacon of equality, innovation, and compassion. Markets thrived, not with exploitation, but with fair trade and shared prosperity. Schools and hospitals funded by the family's wealth became pillars of the community, ensuring that no one was left behind. Travelers from faraway lands visited Zawadi not just for its bustling trade but to learn about the story of the two brothers, a tale that had become a symbol of hope and transformation. The Brothers' Monument. Years after Keto's passing, the people of Zawadi erected a monument in honor of Juma and Keto. The statue depicted the brothers standing side by side, their hands clasped in unity, surrounded by symbols of their journeys, Jumo's tools and Keto's serpent, now depicted as a harmless creature coiled peacefully. An inscription beneath the statue read, "From trials, wisdom. From humility, strength. From forgiveness, unity. May their story guide us all." The final reflection. On a quiet evening, many years later, Zori sat in the courtyard of the family estate, surrounded by her grandchildren. Her silver hair shimmered in the fading light as she watched them play. Juma, now an old man but still sharp and kind, sat beside her. "Do you think they'll remember us?" he asked softly, gesturing to the bustling city beyond. Zori smiled and took his hand. "They already do, Juma. Not in the monuments or the stories, but in the lives they lead. That's how legacies endure." As the sun dipped below the horizon, the laughter of children filled the air, a living testament to the love, resilience, and forgiveness that had defined their lives. The family's story would live on, not just in Zawadi, but in the hearts of all who heard it, a timeless reminder that true wealth lies in the strength of the human spirit.